Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of I almost said the UK League Chat podcast, and that was a real throwback. It's been a while since it's been that, to the NTS podcast. And yeah, with us today is arguably, I think, the UK player that was most overdue an NLC spot, in my opinion, joined by Yusa. Yusa, how's it going?
Hello guys, good to be here.
Good stuff. And yeah, kind of before we maybe get to the NLC then, and everything that's going on at the moment, we'll kind of talk about what your journey's been like. Obviously, people probably see it on the title is sort of talking about how you've climbed the ladder. Because, like we said, I feel like you're someone that's kind of been around a while now. Playing throughout different teams in the UK League, and had kind of always been sort of, when you're thinking, especially in your role as like an ADC, it was sort of X-Matty and Deadly up there, and then it felt like you were sort of just behind them in terms of those sort of top three of the UK. So yeah, maybe go back and talk about some of the different teams you've been in as you've kind of come to finally get into the NLC, basically. And the one I think I wanted to start with then, and this is probably the first time I kind of saw you play that much, was with Diabolus, the 2019 split, which ended up kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it was maybe much better than we could have expected. It didn't seem like maybe that outrageous at the time. Obviously, you guys finished top, I think, in the regular season, ahead of both academies, but that was kind of when the academies had basically first been made, and it wasn't sort of such a precedent to be able to finish above them. Yeah, what was it like being in that team? Is that something, when you look back at it now, it maybe was quite a bit more of a bigger deal than you maybe thought at the time, or?
Looking back on it, no, I've always thought it was a big deal to finish above the academies. Like, the academies have all the resources. They have the luxury of luring the best players because they want to be taking that next step into going into academy, into going into the LEC, right? So yeah, going into a team like Diabolus, which was a UK team, with a much I'm not going to say weak, but less strong as expected roster, and finishing first in the regular season. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, just defying expectations and going above the academies was great.
Yeah.
And also going into each game, it was a tower format, right, back then? Yeah, going into each game and having
thing ever.
and having been predicted to win against the academy teams was also really great. So yeah.
How much do you reckon that was down to I Hansen as well, the coach? Because that was someone I remember, especially, he's not really been in the UK scene really, I think, since that roster, but I remember people sort of constantly saying at the time that he was one of the better coaches in the league, and he obviously went on to coach in Spain and things like that. So how much of an impact do you think he had?
If I had to compare it, I'd say Hansen was like Ranieri to Leicester that one season they won the Premier League. I'm not sure if we would have done as well if we didn't have Hansen. He was a really good coach. He made everyone understand their roles in and outside the game. He helped us learn a lot more about the game than we would have learned with anyone else at the time. And coming into it as a rookie, or sort of a rookie, like my first year, I felt at home playing with Hansen as my coach. I knew my role going into each game. And yeah, Hansen helped all of us improve and mature as players.
And then, yeah, finishing, I think, because you came first in the regular split, obviously you guys unfortunately didn't win the playoffs in the end, but that's what got you into EU Masters, I think, wasn't it, as well? So was that, do I remember, was that the first EU Masters, or it must have been one of the first or second one or so? Even then, maybe at that time, before EU Masters became such a big thing, maybe didn't realize how big a deal that was as well, getting in ahead of academy. So what was that kind of experience like as well with EU Masters?
For me, that experience was really exciting, especially as kind of a new player. It was like, to compare it with football again, it was like going into the Champions League, right? Against the best player, I mean, not best players, best teams across the world in Europe. Yeah. Can't really... Yeah, I think looking back at it now, there's nothing more exciting than going to EUM, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's the next step up. It's where you want to be to show yourself on the main stage, where you can get your name out and show what you can do.
Hmm.
And you can also show that what you did in your own region wasn't a fluke.
I suppose you guys
you
got
want
a
to.
bit unlucky as well. And I was looking back, I didn't realize you. So it was in the play-ins, like when it gets to the little knockout bit, and you guys lost to Misfits Premier, who ended up literally going to win the whole thing anyway. So maybe a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it was kind of unlucky, but like you gotta like beat the best to be the best. So
Hmm.
the way it went, we would have loved to go on the main stage, obviously, but it didn't end that way,
Okay,
unfortunately.
never mind. Um, so yeah, coming off that split, so because yeah, after that one, obviously, I imagine pretty much all the team was on a high. Obviously, a lot of the other players are still around as well. Um, and then I think you went to, was it M&M after that, which
Yeah, well,
I think that roster looked pretty good as well at the time. And then yeah, there was like another, had another good split really. So that was I think third place you guys ended up. And then you're on Nvision afterwards, and that was like a third, fourth place. So it's kind of, yeah, sort of like just on the cusp, really, of sort of making a push for I suppose really at that point for making a push for an academy team, because that was the only ones that were gonna win anything. So how sort of close do you think you were maybe at that point? Because especially the Nvision one, you were playing with Prosphere in the bot lane as well. Obviously, you had been playing with Fnatic. So how did you kind of see just the general progress over those next couple of splits?
uh, yeah, it's always been an achievement of mine to go to next level and push for academy. Um, but to do that, I have to be equals to or better than Matty or Deadly at
Hmm.
the past few years. Um, and League of Legends is not, um, let's say, an individual game. It's always about the teams, right? Um, and it's hard. It's really hard to how do I put it this way? Um, like if I had to put it this way, if you compare the Envision and uh, let's say Fnatic at that time rosters, if we put Matty and swapped me and him, I hope at least that the same outcome would arise where Fnatic would win.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think there was much difference between me and Matty or Deadly at the time. Maybe they would have more. I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but at least I felt that way that I
Hmm.
could match up to them in terms of skill, um, and maybe not knowledge, but at least skill. Like I could match up to these guys for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Good is it as well, though, kind of having these players like Xmatic and like Deadly, kind of in that pool of ADCs. Because obviously, I think a lot of people talk about junglers as being like that. We've always been known to have like quite good junglers, but actually, there's a strong like pool of ADCs, whether they're rising, and then like you said, you've got your Xmatic and your Deadly. So how good is it to kind of compete against those and kind of level yourself against those?
oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd love to play against them every week, every game. Um, because you improve so much as a player playing against them, and then afterwards, when you review these games, if you've lost or if you've won, you see what you could have done better.
Hmm.
You see what they're doing better than you. So yeah, as a player that wants to be on the same level too or better than, I'd love to play against these sorts of players every day or so. Um, and I mean, we're going to get onto that, but that's why the current NLC season is kind of nice because I don't think there's a weak AD carry in the league right now, and I think AD carry is one of the strongest roles in the NLC at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Very nice. Um, with that Envision one in particular, how do you just sort of generally rate how that split went? Because we had Prospero on, I think it was just before the split had started. I don't know if we maybe lost Tom there, but we can keep going. But yeah, so obviously at that time that was the Academy Killers team, who I remember you guys sort of started off a bit slowly in the end, but then sort of gradually worked up. Did I think take a game off Fnatic in the regular season? But yeah, then it was just both the academies went through in the playoffs. So how did you kind of rate that in general? Because I presume that was the aim then to sort of beat them, and yeah, how did you kind of rate that split?
Personally, it was an underachievement. I hoped at least we would be able to compete better and go further, and at least, you know, maybe make EU Masters. But I guess to the looking at it as a whole from an outside perspective, where let's say me and Nolty were in university at the time, and the rest of us weren't playing full time. It went as expected, right? Like the two academies went through, and us as the third or fourth best team, with less resources, less coaching staff, you know, we did as expected, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't too much of a disappointment, but we came in as the Academy Killers did it once and came out okay. Not too many scratches.
Nice. Because I'd sort of heard that when I see people say before as well, like what can other teams do to sort of reach the academy level to be able to have a chance against them as just like a regular team. And I think that just literally the time seems like the one that is the biggest one, because like you said, a lot of non-academy teams will be part-time or will be doing other things, doing uni and stuff. Do you see that change at any point? I suppose it's something right now, you know, if you look at other ERLs in other countries, a lot of them are full-time anyway, you know, not just the actual academies. Do you think that's something that's maybe maybe sort of the gap could be closing in that sense? I think there's a few in the NLC as well. I would guess have probably got the money to have it full-time at least.
And I'd hope so, honestly. It could be nothing but better for the league and increase viewership. Hopefully it's like how it is in France, where there's all the teams there actually are pretty good rosters, pretty good salary. Each team you could see winning the league. Like I would love for that to happen in NLC. But there's several factors that control that, like budget or viewership. So I know like France gets a lot of viewers thanks to Cape Corp.
Yeah.
And whereas like the NLC doesn't have the same reach. Like we would have to like have a major increase in fan viewership and whatnot for more investments to come in, or sponsorships or whatever. So it all relies on that, really, I think, right?
Yeah. And I'd say an extra bloody EU Masters spot as well. Obviously, like until then, I don't know. Yeah, like what could the teams have the bump up the extra budget to maybe get a spot off an academy? But hopefully that'll change anyway. That's another discussion, I think. I've just got a picture from Tom. He's had a Windows update, so hopefully that means he'll be back shortly. Right then. So after that split, then with Nvision, well, like we said, like it was still slightly behind the academies, but I don't think that could really be looked at as like a failure of a split anyway. Even if the aim was to beat one of them to E Masters, because you still, especially by the end of the split, were clearly, I think, the third best team. At that point, I think you'd overtaken Barrage, who had started quite well. And then it was at that point that the NLC then got formed. Now, what was that off-season situation? Because I think I remember at the time, if I remember correctly, you maybe like tweeted that maybe offers had fallen through or something like that, and you ended up playing for I'm not going to try and say the actual name, the equivalent of like Red Star Belgrade, I think, right? The football team is the equivalent. So yeah, what was just generally that off season like to start with? Was there any offers maybe in the NLC that just didn't come through in the end, or what kind of happened there?
If I remember correctly, there was a few offers in NLC, but I personally thought that those offers wouldn't necessarily take me to the next level, or I felt as if we wouldn't achieve much with the rosters and the coaching staff that I saw with each team. So I felt as if I took that offer, I would be going backwards essentially in my career, right? And with each play, I want to go further up and up.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, okay, if I'm not going to go in the NLC, I might as well explore how it's like in the other regions, right? So this last minute offer came through for Svezda, CZV. And I thought, why not? It's European. Let's see how it's like outside of the UK. So yeah, I took that opportunity. Would you like me to go on about how that split went, or?
Yeah, sure.
So I came in with Connective, who's a Polish top laner, 4 Lamses, and okay, so basically it was just us 4 at the time, and we were looking for a support. But unfortunately, we could not find a support, which had the interesting thing of our manager becoming our support. So we went into the split with
perfect
us,
news for an ADC.
yeah, us 4 professional players and our support as our manager, which we had to teach to the game of League of Legends.
What rank was he?
He was Diamond 5, so it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Like, so yeah, it was a really interesting split trying to teach your manager Ang how to play League. Yeah, we came in as what was it 2 imports? You know what? We came in thinking we would go to EU Masters, and we didn't. And that proves that EBL is actually kind of a strong region.
Yeah.
Because
I had a look at Sub Up got through, and I think they've got through a couple of times since as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's pretty competitive.
They're actually a good team. They had I think Clowny, who's now in Spain with Spooky, and two Hoys. He's now in the LEC, right? So yeah, VZZ was also in Spain. So yeah, they have good players in that region. Not to say we didn't underestimate them. I just think the circumstances leading toward our team, we also had different ways of seeing the game and whatnot, and we didn't even have a coach. So it doesn't help. But no, yeah, it was a good experience outside of the UK.
Very nice. So then, presumably, after that split, you were aiming to come back, I guess. Like a similar kind of question. What was the off season like there? Because I know, obviously, you ended up on Resolve, especially with Soft, and I say you and Soft are probably the 2 sort of highest caliber players, at least on paper on that team. Soft, who had been playing in the NLC already, and we'd heard that he had been involved with talks that ended up breaking down last minute. Was it a similar case with yourself as well, or had you already agreed with Resolve beforehand?
That split, I believe, off season. I think I was going to join one of the NLC teams. I don't think I can say or state who they were.
I think if it was the same similar as Soft, then I think a lot of people probably know anyway.
So the thing with Soft happened, and I remember him like asking me, hey, there's this stuff going Resolve. And I think I was approached by Resolve actually earlier in that off season, and I was like, oh, it's interesting, but to play in the UKLC in my head would be like, what am I doing here? Like, is there a purpose to going back in the other direction? So the thing with Soft happened, and Soft came up to me one day and he was like, hey, let's go to this league with these players. You probably know all of them. And let's smash it, and let's get promoted back to the NLC from this league, and see and show what teams have been missing, right? So I was like, fine. All right, cool. Like, I know Soft, like, good friends. Fine, let's do it. Sounds fun. And we came into Resolve. Me, Chimera, Autorius, Emre, and Soft, and oh, it was a blast. The league, playing League of Legends with your friends is one of the best things you can do. And playing League of Legends with your friends whilst being a pro is probably a step further up from that.
And then when you're winning every game as well, probably helps.
Yeah, that for sure helps. Of course. But yeah, no, Resolve was really fun because not only were we all UK, but we were all friends, and we all knew, like, it was sort of like, it reminded me of Nvision, because we were also all like UK apart from Adept, and we were all friends, and we could like talk about how we wanted to play the game, and we had a similar understanding of how to play the game, which made things a lot easier to let's say it was a lot easier to resolve arguments and improve. So yeah, unfortunately, we come to Telia, we had a slight dip in our play and a lack of understanding about the meta, which happens. It was unfortunate it had to happen during that moment.
Yeah.
But I believe the better teams won during that time. So,
And to be fair, it wasn't even the only team, I think, going to Telia that was one of the favourites that then sort of underperformed, because obviously Absolved went in from the Danish league as well, who everyone thought was like, I suppose, the other one that would be challenging. And yeah, they didn't really make it very far either. But even before Telia as well, I just wonder what it was like in the UKLC final too, because obviously at that point you guys had literally not dropped a game, and then it was in the final against London where suddenly we had like a full-on 5-game series. Yeah, what was that like? Was it a bit of overconfidence, or they just come out better than you thought? What happened there?
To be honest, you could pick out any game and I wouldn't be able to remember what happened in each game. But if I had to try and pick it from memory, I don't think it was overconfidence. Like we definitely went game by game and respected each opponent. I think it was just like our own play was just bad. Like it wasn't like what we were used to, and how we would like come in smashing every game. Because you could see even during the regular season when we came up against London, it would be like a slaughter. Like every lane would just win and would just end the game in 20 minutes. I don't know what it was actually. I don't know if it was playoff jitters or what. Like it was the final, so we played not as our usual selves, but it definitely had some impact coming into Telia as well, because I think the same sort of thing happened, where we kind of lost our identity. Yeah.
Never mind. So then I suppose after that is obviously kind of getting up to present day really. So when obviously we then had the next off season, and I suppose at that point Resolve didn't know they were going to be in the NLC, so I guess there wasn't maybe much discussion about sticking with them. But then obviously you've ended up in the NLC anyway, finally with Godsent. So how did you come to join Godsent? Was there other offers? Was it the roster they're putting together? How did that happen?
Yeah, I tried for a few teams in the NLC. And then I believe Godsent's coach Monkeys, he played for the Diabolus roster that I played in back in 2019. So he knew me personally as an AD carry, and he was also the Masonic coach in Telia. So we came across each other there. So yeah, he approached me and he was like, "Hey, you want to trial for Godsent?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what's up here." So I showed my stuff and showed what I could do as a player, and he was like, "Cool, like we're really interested. We'll keep in tabs." And eventually we came to this roster here with this team, as it was the best of my current offers for this off season, and I was like, "Yeah, back in NLC, let's do it."
Then what was it? When obviously you hadn't been coached by him at that point. That's when Monkeys had basically in like a second or third split transitioning. But was he someone that even before you've joined Godsent, one of those kind of people you could imagine them sort of going into a coaching role, with those sort of personalities and stuff?
I never really thought about it. When I saw Monkeys as a coach for Masonic, I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting." I think the question popped in my head: would he be a similar coach to Hansen at the time? So I was like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I suppose thinking about it now, yeah, he does strike me as the type to be sort of a leader and direct people. So yeah, I could see him working out as a coach for sure.
Very nice. So then, once the roster was put together, then I suppose to start with, what were the expectations? Where were you sort of hoping to place? Because I suppose playoffs would be the push, would be the goal, but then there are obviously with the NLC now, with it being the combined regions, there is generally like a pretty decent player base, and the fact that the playoffs have been stripped down to 3 teams in a group as well obviously makes it harder. So yeah, what were the general goals to start with?
My personal goal going into it would be at least playoffs. With the roster we have, like sure, there's experience. So we have me and Zvene in the bot lane. Zvene played in GXR and he's also been around for a few years with many different teams, including Misfits. But he was also a top laner, I believe. So he had to swap the roles. And then we have Aesthetic, who's been around the scene for a few years, different other teams as well. But then also he's come from different backgrounds, so he has a different understanding about the game compared to everyone else. And then Kubu, who's been in the... I'm not too sure about Kubu's background, but he's been in the Hungarian scene as well. So yeah, you come across these different players from different backgrounds with different experiences, with different coaches, and it's just hard to have an identity when this team has just come together 1 week before the NLC even starts. Like it's been hard to find an identity, especially when one of your most influential roles in the game mid is a rookie who knows nothing about the game, but is motivated as hell and eager to learn a lot. So I mean, everyone's working hard. Let's put it that way. Everyone's working hard. It hasn't been the greatest start for Godsent. There's been a lot of misunderstandings about how the game should be played, and a lot of like questions being asked, but not too many answers so far. Yeah, everyone's disappointed in the way we started, but it doesn't mean we've given up or anything. No.
Yeah.
One
thing I was going to say as well, obviously, like you're saying, the start hasn't been great so far, but then I suppose with the format changes, does that make it maybe a bit more comfortable that you've maybe taken a bit of time to gel? Because obviously before it was like a 10-game regular season where at this point, after having a Super Week, it would have basically been halfway through the split already, which is obviously crazy. But then now I think it's basically stretched to like 15 or so games, I think. So it's like a double round robin, and then you play the other group once. So yeah, does that at least give you a bit of comfort really that you've got a bit more time to sort of gel and work things out?
Yeah, for sure. If it was 3 games done and out already, I would have some concerns, to be honest. But let's put it this way: I'm not too worried about the coming future. We're still going in game by game, and it's not like we're having like these really outrageous games where we're just losing, because I think against Fnatic we actually showed some sort of resistance against them for the first 20 minutes at least.
Yeah,
which impressed even me, because I thought, oh well, like we're not too far behind and we can actually like play for an objective. But the questions in my head right now are, how are we going to be a team? Because right now I see it as 5 individuals playing rather than one whole collective. And that's something we have to solve in Godsent, and that's something we have to do really quickly if we hope to make it to playoffs.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you, you touched on it there about 610, the mid laner, obviously being a complete rookie mid. What did you get there before the split started? Did you sort of come across him in solo queue or anything? Because when we saw that, it was like literally a complete unknown. We're imagining it's like this like next caps or something that they found that's just like some new prodigy, some 15-year-old or something ridiculous. But yeah, is that someone that maybe got those kind of mechanics, just a case of just sort of teach them how to actually play competitively?
I think of 610. He used to be an Echo one-trick pony, as I believe, but recently he's branched out his champion pool because he wants to pursue a career in competitive, and he's only 17. And I believe the kid has a bright future because he's eager to learn, he's motivated, he knows when he's wrong, he doesn't have any like negatives about his own mistakes, and he wants to improve. So yeah, he knows nothing about the game, but his mechanics are good, which is a start, because you need good mechanics to be a good player. And if you have the mechanics, then everyone else around you, if they're experienced, can teach you everything else about the game. And I see 610 as is sort of like how I was in Diabolus, because I came in knowing nothing about the game as well, but I at least had the direction from Hansen and the other 4 more experienced players, right? So yeah, I've sort of taken a similar role in Godsent and have been teaching 610 a few things about the game, and helping Monkeys with teaching him that. So yeah, I don't think I don't obviously 610 wasn't going to come through the gates like smashing everyone, but I feel like give him a split or two and you can see what he can do.
Yeah, I suppose he's been, with the way that you guys have started so far, he's basically been chucked in at the deep end, and I guess that's the quickest way to learn, isn't it? So yeah, without well, if we just look at sort of how the rest of the league is going as well, because even though there will be more games this split, the fact that there's still so few, there's the leagues or each group isn't got a huge amount of teams in there, and it can be just a couple of games and everything's completely different. So even now you're literally basically two places off playoffs. So just looking in maybe your own group first, how good do you see? One that I wanted to ask about in particular was Riddle, because actually when we were doing like our kind of like tier list episode and looking at the different teams, I think Riddle was a team that we maybe didn't expect that much from, and obviously to be 2-2 so far, is, I'd say from our perspective, more than we'd expected. So where do you sort of see yourselves alongside them? Because they would have been the ones, if on paper, maybe them and Kova that we would have seen as the ones to struggle in the group. So yeah, how far do you see yourselves off them, or what do you maybe have advantages over them? How do you see that going?
I mean, honestly, we'd have to see. If Godsent as a whole were to pick up our play and would end up having a whole different identity and start playing as a collective, as a team, then that Godsent that I feel like we know we can play as, I feel like we could actually push for playoffs. And who is in our group against Nordvind and Fnatic and
Galaxy
Kova
Racer.
and Galaxy Racer and Riddle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I feel like we could actually, that Godsent would be able to push for playoffs. And to be honest, going into it, Nordvind, our first game against them, I wasn't really too impressed. Like, sure, they could close the game out when they were ahead, but they didn't really do much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Riddle game I just played, I felt like we lost to ourselves. That's how I felt. I wasn't also impressed with what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I do believe it's still all up for grabs. There's still one game to be played for each team, I believe, against each team.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think we're out of the fight. Yeah, I think we can still keep pushing. And if this Godsent with the players we have finds like an objective that we can all push towards as a team, then yeah, I feel like we can make it.
Very nice. Good to hear. I suppose is it maybe nicer that this week, because of the scheduling, obviously last week was like a super week where everyone played a couple of times, but because of the way it's formatted, you do get these odd weeks where you maybe only play one game. So this week you've only got one match, and then I suppose that maybe gives you a bit extra time to just work on things, really. So basically over the space of 2 weeks, you're going to have one game because you have the next week again after. So is that maybe quite nice to have that as like a little bit of breathing room? Tom, you back?
No, I think I
Hello. Yeah, no, I think it would only aid our development, and more scrim time equals more game time equals more development. So yeah, it's helpful the way the schedule is looking, and hopefully we take our first game this week and push on for more the week after.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Tom, you heard anything interesting? You must have thought of a couple of questions while you've been listening.
Yeah, quite a few. So, let's go back to Eminem. No, I'm joking. I just find it really interesting because I don't know if you actually managed to talk about this, but one thing I did want to kind of chat about was how do you see kind of the level being from you at Diabolus and kind of the amount of talent which was around there to now in the NLC? Because obviously there's a lot of talk about, was it the correct thing to merge these leagues together? And so, to merge the Nordics and the UK scene together. So in your opinion, like, is it better now than what it was back all the way back there, or just during the UKLC in general?
Do you mean the level of play across the board?
Yes, across the board, yeah. Because I feel like you've always had the top teams, but I feel like I wonder if the smaller teams have actually been a lot more competitive now because of this change.
It's kind of hard to think about it because You know what? Yeah, I'd have to say it was good because even the smaller teams like Kova and Granite, like Granite's actually doing really well on the other side of the bracket,
Mhm.
against better teams. So no, I think it was good for the league. Most of the teams' skill level has like spiked up across the board, which means hopefully that the budget must have increased somewhere. Um, so more budget means more better players, which means better growth, and yeah, hopefully that means a better league.
Hmm.
And now we're starting to see loads of UK players starting to come in now as well, which is good because I think, I mean, how many did we have last split? It was probably what 3, and now I think
Yeah,
we must have about
It's
7
more or
this
less
split.
doubled, I think. I think
yeah.
Crane put like a. I'm just trying to remember how many Union Jack emojis I saw in Crane's tweet about it. It was
I
yeah,
think
it was like more or less doubled.
it was like 3, and they were all from a singularity, right? Yeah, it
Yes, I
was like
believe so.
Dragdar, Nolty, and Prospect.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's increased by 4. Was it 4?
I think so,
yeah.
yeah.
I can't count. Was it? So it's basically everyone from Resolve last bit,
More or
apart
less.
from apart from Notorious, sadly,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which is kind of funny. But yeah,
Well, maybe sort of looking over to the other group as well. I don't know. Have you watched much of Group A? Sometimes when we've had players on, they just literally don't watch the other group at all. And
um, yeah. I think I've watched a few games, but I don't really remember them. Like
Mhm.
I think I've watched some of XL's games. Um, but other than that, no, I haven't been watching too much about the other group.
Okay, no worries. Well, then maybe with something you can answer without having watched that much anyway. It's just how you kind of see Resolve strength. Obviously, a few of the players were there with you last split, but they've kind of struggled a bit to start with. So they're 1-3 at the moment. Um, yeah, do you see that being maybe like a quite a bit of a step up? 'Cause someone like Chimera, especially, is obviously like I think he was the one that was maybe a bit more of a surprise to see him step up. Obviously, he's never played in the NLC before. So yeah, do you see them having that kind of level to be able to start putting some wins as well?
I feel like they should have been higher actually because the losses they have, I don't think were due to them playing bad. I actually
Hmm.
think they should have won some of those games.
Mhm.
Some of those games they may have drafted inadequately, and other games they were winning, like they had 4 dragons or Baron, whatever, and they just didn't close out. I think that was the game against Granite,
Mhm.
right? Where like Jinx and Victor went out to scale for like 10, 20 minutes in their own base with 3 inhibs down or something. Um, so yeah, no, I think playing with Resolve last split, I know how the team would function. Essentially they've only replaced the Eddie carry and the top laner, which isn't really too influential roles. So the core of the team should be the same, right?
Hmm.
It should still be the same support, same mid, and same jungle, which operate more around the map than the top and ADC. So I know how they play, I know how they want to play. Um, and I think it's a good way of playing the game. So I know that they can be good, and I know they should be better than they are right now. So
I
um,
think that they will definitely benefit. I think from the fact that there are more games, like you said, you were talking about prior, where 10 games. Like if this was now 1-3 and we only had 10 regular season games, okay, maybe there's a little bit more time to worry. But because of these actual extra games and the potential to kind of claim a game or a victory from another group as well when they
Hmm.
do that group swap, I think that I do see this Resolve side getting better, and maybe it's a little bit like what happened with Nordavind. I think what happened last split. Nordavind last split didn't look very good. Like right at the beginning, like there was inklings of the player quality that they had, but then as the kind of the season went on, and even in playoffs, like they did gradually get a little bit better, and now obviously we're seeing them. I would say like even better from that. So I think it is kind of one of those things where maybe they have just needed a little bit more time, but I agree. I think that they should be at least 2-2. I don't. I think that Granite game is one of those games, and obviously, no offense to Granite. I think Granite have done absolutely brilliant, but it's one of those games where you probably replay that game like 10 different times of the way that game went, and that was the one time that Granite was going to win. Like I think with the lead that they had, it was very very hard for them to have messed that up, and they did, unfortunately.
Hmm. Well, you mentioned there, Tom, about obviously we're still waiting to have the sort of the back and forward games between groups. Is that one that that you're looking forward to against Resolve? Maybe show them what they're missing.
Yeah. Or why not? Going against your old team is always fun. We actually had a little warm-up session against them the other day, and it was fun seeing the lads again. It's fun killing them in game. No, yeah, it'll be one to look forward to for sure.
Very
I think
nice.
it's funny as well because I believe that with the way that it's gone, like all of your previous teams apart from Resolve in the UK scene just aren't here anymore. At this point, wherever they're either in the second division. Like Eminem just ditched you. They were like, "No, I'm not doing this." Like,
Is that some sort of curse?
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is a curse.
Well, yeah, Godsent are only quite new to League as well. Maybe they'll drop out now. We'll see. Is there anyone else in the other team that you're especially looking forward to?
You mean the Alpha group?
Yeah, from the other group, sorry.
Who was in the Alpha group again? Oh, Singularity.
BTXL, Singularity.
Yeah, because Nulty and Prosper are my old team, and I know Dragdar. So yeah, it'd be good to get going at some UK people. BTXL will be a good one because I like measuring your team against the best team in the league, right? So that'll be a good learning process. And Tricked would be a good one as well to learn from. They actually seem like they're a pretty decent team. Other than that, apart from Resolve, no, I don't really find anything, anyone.
No.
I'm looking forward to playing.
How do you kind of see yourself against? It may be a difficult question to ask without having played against him yet. But against Dragdar, because like I was saying earlier, when we talk about like UK ADCs, it was like Xmatty and Deadly were the top two. You always seem to be sort of just behind. And obviously Dragdar is someone that's sort of come through a bit more recently and made that jump up from the UKEL. Yeah, kind of to sort of come up with you as sort of challenging for like what's considered maybe the third best. So yeah, how do you rate yourself against him?
I think Dragdar's actually a pretty good player. Like he seems to know what he's doing around the game. I don't think I'm disappointed by anything about positioning or mechanics or anything. I think it's the same argument that could be made from before when I said if you swap me and Matty at that time when Diabolus Fnatic, you wouldn't notice the difference. Whereas the same thing would be said through here. Or if you swapped me and Dragdar from Singularity Godsent, I think the outcomes would be probably the same. Like I'm not sure. Like I think all the AD carries in the league are at a similar skill level where, apart from the academy ones, of course, where the difference in them won't decide the game. I think it will always be the difference in the team skill, rather than the individual role.
Well, if you can only learn to right click so good, apparently, then is that what you said?
Yes, unfortunately, we are limited by how many times we can right click on our mouse.
Just joking, of course. Let's maybe, while we're talking about the groups and what's going on, maybe we could do a couple of predictions for the upcoming week.
Non-super week. This is the non-super.
For the regular week, boring regular week. So I've pulled up a couple of games from each day, so we won't have to go through every single one on stream. But yeah, I pulled up a couple of games that I think are quite interesting and maybe get our thoughts on how we think they're going to go. And the first one might be a bit tricky without watching too much of the other group. But one I thought would be good is Resolve against Singularity. Obviously, like you've been saying, a couple of teams where you know a fair few of them. Singularity is starting off the better team, and you'd imagine part of that has to do with the fact that they're the same team playing two splits in a row. But yeah, how do you see that one going?
Oh, that's going to be a spicy one. I feel like Resolve will come out punching this time because I believe they've realized what they've done wrong in terms of draft last week. And I actually know that they're going to push on this week. But I also know that Singularity is actually kind of a good team. And speaking to some of the Nordic players in my team, they're actually kind of underrated because they have UK players in it. But I know how good this team can be. So that will be a banger game. And it's hard to pull out a prediction for this one, but I'm going to go off my bias. I'm going to go for my old team, for the last split, and I'm going to say Soft and the boys will do it.
Very nice. I'm gonna go Singularity because I feel like it's the easier option right now based on form at least. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. Like basically all of the like 90% of the UK players in the league against each other. I'm looking forward to it. What do you reckon, Tom?
I say I love this because you've got Nolte versus Soft, you've got a Chu versus Dragdar, and then you've got Fastlegger versus Prosper. And that's like the three which I'm really interested in seeing kind of compete. And I think it's going to be a great game. I really hope that it's a great game. And I mean, my hope is that I do think that Singularity are going to win. But what I kind of hope to see is the fact that this is a little bit more of a closer game. I don't want Singularity to stomp Resolve, and I don't want Resolve to stomp Singularity. I actually want them both to hopefully be like at the same competitive level and can kind of highlight that, yes, okay, maybe Resolve are going to lose this one, but actually things are looking a little bit brighter for them in the future for future matches. But I do think right now, I'm going to have to give it to Denmark, which is Team Singularity, which isn't really Denmark, is it? Like, they have everybody UK, Wiseau's basically UK, Swedish, UK is the same. And then for Fury, yeah, well, it's basically UK again, so it's full UK team, really.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I'll put you down for Singularity then. The second game I've gone for then is obviously because you're here, you, so I've got to let you give your pitch to why you guys are going to beat Galaxy Racer.
We're going to beat them because Vene's been in their team last player and he knows all their secrets. So he's basically leaked their entire strategy to us. So yeah, we're just going to win.
Nice. I've gone for you guys as well. I see you breaking the streak. I've got faith. What do you reckon, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to go Godsent as well. To be fair, like Galaxy Racer have lost 2 in a row as well. Like True. They obviously had like quite an impressive start, going 2-0. And then I think after that, they've just looked a bit, okay. Not bad, but just okay, if I'm being honest. So I think if there's, a time to kind of like come back and get a win, like Galaxy Racer, obviously, I think are a good team to kind of get that against.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I'd rather face Galaxy Racer over Riddle right now, who are like 2-0. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think, so from what I can tell, day 2 then is when it starts with some of like the cross group matches, which obviously is going to get us some interesting ones. So one that I've gone for is Singularity against Riddle, because like we said earlier, Riddle especially was one that we didn't really expect much of, and they've come out with a couple of wins already. Any chance that we could see an upset against Singularity, do you reckon?
I only see an upset if Singularity underperform, so I'm going to give it to Singularity for this one.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's Singularity. Like, as I was just talking about, obviously I'd rather face like Galaxy Racer over Riddle, but I wouldn't want to face Team Singularity, so I am going to say Team Singularity for that one.
Yeah. Screw it then. I had Singularity, but if you guys are going to go for them, I've got to go for something else. I've got to make up some points on Tom. Tom, I think you're a few ahead at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'll go for Riddle then. And then, yeah, the last one I thought we could talk about as well. Nordvind against Granite. So both these teams actually have 3 wins apiece at the moment, which for Granite especially...
Granite are joint top,
yeah.
If you take away their 2 losses, but they're joint top. So
and obviously off the high of the XL game as well, which is obviously no one had seen come in. Yeah, I've maybe bought into it a bit off of that game now. I'm going for Granite. If they could beat XL, then who can't they beat?
The answer is Nordvind. I don't think they're beating Nordvind. Like, you know what? And this is what an underdog is, yeah? An underdog is you don't believe in them, yeah? Because you always think that, someone's just a little bit better than them, but they keep proving you wrong. And so, for the story of the underdog, it would be wrong for me to predict Granite, because I think that would be unfair. So I am going to go for Nordvind. And then if Granite win anyway, so it's the comeback story. But to be fair, like, nobody expected Granite to be doing this well. Like, genuinely, I think it's very, very rare. And I think that both splits, Granite, fair play to them. Like, hopefully, obviously there are a lot more games, but you could probably say that maybe they will be actually quite safe. But again, there's a lot more games to be played. But I think either way now, like, Granite have really proved themselves right. And to be fair, like, they just beat BTXL, and so they could definitely beat Nordvind. But I think that Nordvind are just a mechanically better side, and I think that they are probably one of the better sides in terms of synergy of a team as well. And I do think that the Granite have done really well as a team, But I do think that Nordvind also are better and also have that kind of team synergy still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to agree with Tom here and go for Lord Defender as well.
Yeah. It's not a surprise. It's the safe bet. Yeah, it's funny because with Granite, like when we did the tier list, remember we said like, you know, last split, obviously they got the spot at the last minute, so they just kept their team together and like went, you know, above expectations. And then we were kind of saying like, what are they doing? Why have they just dropped the ball now and not, you know, try to build on it? And we basically I think we would almost just pinned them as for relegation already at that point. So yeah, the fact they've got 3 wins already is really good. With those then, obviously I know I think we're a bit pressed for time today, so we'll sort of come to the end of the episode a little bit. I did just want to say one thing to mention before we do finish.
I can't believe we're not talking about Fnatic versus Dusty, guys. Come on. Like...
You can if you want, Tom. What do you reckon? Who would you go for?
Fnatic. I'm going to go for Fnatic.
What a shot. But yeah, I thought one thing we couldn't do the episode without mentioning was obviously Guldborg's his debut, at least on the casting desk, was I think today. I think it was on the analyst desk yesterday or something. And just really good in general to see all of the UK, all of the NLC guys making it up to the LEC. Orcs obviously robbed. I think that's the general consensus as well. But then to be fair, I'm sure they can only have so many casters. Like eventually they're just going to literally have one person on, a new person every single game.
Orcs will have his time. His time will come.
Definitely.
The heavens will open. The LEC heavens will open and guide him.
Yeah, you know, really good to see Goldborg there. And I feel like he looked at home as well. You know, it's just his normal good casting self.
Physically there as well. Like I was genuinely expecting like Ender, you know, going inside the desk kind of cam. Not actually like physically there. So yeah, fair play to actually managing to get over there as well.
I probably like a good experience. Like obviously, I'd imagine they're going to do this with a few of them. It's like let them cast with a quick shot as well, which obviously is, you know, a great person I'm sure for them to learn from. So yeah, really happy for him. I think that was more or less everything I had for today. Is there any other topics you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap up?
No, unless you have anything for me, I'm all good.
Yeah, I'm good. It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming home. There you go.
There you go. Perfect. With that then, yeah, obviously we can basically wrap up then. So thanks for coming on, Yusa. Best of luck in the split. We're rooting for you. You know, we love to see more UK players in the NLC. Yeah, we're sure you'll turn it around. And with that then, anyone that's watching on Twitch, if there's a few knocking around, of course you can follow on Twitch. We're live usually every Sunday. But as well as us being live, of course, there is the actual UKEL action. This is when I'd usually cut to the graphic, which I don't have today. So I could just read off a few of the next games, but you just won't see them on the screen. But yeah, because of the Super Week, basically, that happened today with the LEC, things have been shifted around a little bit. So for those looking out for the UKEL matches, the next one is on next Saturday. So there's no Thursday games this week, unfortunately. You do have to wait until next Saturday. And it starts with London Academy against Demise, and then X7 against Munster, Nox against Nerd Rage, and Lucendi against London United. So yeah, that's next Saturday from 12 o'clock noon. Other than that, if you're watching later on YouTube or Spotify, Google Podcasts, any of those, you can obviously follow on there too. And you can follow us all directly on Twitter as well. And a breath. And there we go. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you later.